second official live stream. I don't think we have anyone in the live stream as of yet, but let's get started, shall we? So I did download some programs that I thought I could use my green screen and display some footage on the back wall while we're talking, but that software did not work as of yet. So, trying to get set up so that I can read your comments. It looks like maybe it's starting. It shows live on my phone, but on my screen it doesn't say as of yet. We're going to wait here for a second to see if anyone joins us. Dale's here. Hey, Dale. Thanks for coming back. I do have chat this time. Hopefully you can hear me okay, Dale. Is the audio okay? Because I can't hear myself. David, welcome. Dale, you can hear okay? You can hear my voice? Because I'm using my cell phone to live stream, so this way I can read your comments on my computer screen. I did try downloading some. All right, good. Audio is good, he said. I did try downloading some software that I can use my green screen with, but we're not up to that level yet. I had some technical difficulties. David says it sounds good. You guys have been following the videos I've been posting about the 37 Oldsmobile engine. A lot to talk about with that this week. Taking the valve keepers out, went to put them back in, and I dropped one through the return hole for the I guess the oil return to the pan. And to make a long story short, I thought it was good. I fished it out of there this morning. I was all excited. I woke up with a migraine too, not to mention that. And went to put another one in, and I did it again. So somebody is having me take that oil pan off. I really didn't want to. I drained all the oil out. I'm going to try to fish it out from the oil pan, but something's telling me to take the oil pan down. I really think that it's probably the right thing to do. Just to look at, most importantly, because of it's been a while since I worked on an engine with the oil so tarry, so sticky, that I really want to check the oil pickup screen. And make sure that the oil pickup screen isn't clogged with sludge. I think starving that engine for oil would be a problem. So we got a few more people joined us in the chat. Looks like we got Blake and Paul. David's still here. Dale was here. All right, so we're up to 52 viewers. That's pretty amazing. So this 37 Oldsmobile engine started cutting the seats for the valves because we didn't have good compression. We had compression on all cylinders once they started getting the valves to free up, but we didn't have compression on all of them good enough to make fire. And essentially, I had to basically take the valves out. The valve stems had a light corrosion on them, I would say. Polish the valve stems. That made the valves, move in and out very free. And then I started cutting the valve seats. The seats are in the block because it's obviously flathead. And welcome back, David. And some of the seats were pretty pitted. So now that we're getting an semblance of a good seal from the valves, I think we're going to make good compression. Obviously, we're going to check the rings. I was going to saturate the cylinders with oil and look for, leak down from that. Get to some of your comments real quick. Somebody asked, should he buy a Tesla? Teslas are pretty amazing in terms of acceleration. If you have the ability to drive to where you're going on a charge without worrying about traveling long distances, electric vehicles, I think, are pretty amazing. If you've ever driven a Tesla, it's like driving a big black Chevrolet with a supercharger. They go very fast. They're missing the sound. I think that takes away from the driving experience personally. And let's see. Isn't the live? Can you? All right. Shout out to your dad, Lester. Thanks for coming in, Blake. Hopefully you can hear me, Lester. We're getting a lot of new names, new people in the live, and I welcome everyone. This is my second one. Hopefully by next week we'll have the technology up and running, because there's some footage, some behind the scenes stuff that I'd love to show you. I do have the green screen where I can project those images. Hopefully that's where I want to go with it, but did have some technical difficulties today trying to set that up, so I apologize for that. All right, now, because we have, well, at least I can see more of your comments than what I could last week, and the setup we had last week. I guess we had a bad echo. Obviously, we were recording against a garage door, and it didn't have sound deadening like I do here in this studio. So, at any rate, I got a few things to address here. Josh, you got a 55 Ford Fairlane. What color is it? What engine do you have? I actually went to Chicago when I was in high school with my buddies who were in the Front Engine Dragsters of America Association, and we took an old Fairlane, 59 Fairlane, I believe it was, all the way to Chicago. It was pretty cold. Pretty cold. Okay. Harold asked, do I know much about the Audi DSG gearbox? I know enough to be dangerous. It's an automated manual transmission. So basically, you have essentially something similar to a manual transmission with a clutch. But instead of you operating the clutch pedal, the computer operates an actuator, which engages the clutch and shifts the gears electronically. So the only thing that I can say about the DSG is, they shift very fast and efficient. But when they have problems, things get expensive in a hurry. You like my shirt, Dale? I got a million of them. My wife got me this one this year, but I got all kinds of silly t-shirts. I don't have any merch yet. Maybe I'll have to get some. Wow, we're up to 114 viewers. That's awesome. And Harold asks, how often would you get the DSG serviced? I want to think that they were fairly low mileage intervals to get them serviced. This is from my VW experience when I worked at the VW dealership, the service manager. I thought that they had like a 30,000 mile maintenance schedule for the DSGs. They changed. I thought there were some adjustments that could be made either by laptop or mechanically, fluid service, and that kind of stuff. And hi, Teddy. Hey, if you could put in the comments where everyone's from. I find it interesting. A lot of the live streams that I participate in, like watching, I love to see people from all around the world, and you're, communicating in chat. Reports. Multiple reports concerning your channel. I don't know. I got a message from YouTube. They must not like me. You're in Belfast. That's awesome. Been to Belfast. Went there, won a trip with Suzu, and it was pretty amazing. We got to go to the shipyard where they built the Titanic. It's a big tourist trap there in Europe. Dale's in north central Pennsylvania. Abdul, where are you from? Newcastle, England. All right. Well, you got me with your YouTube policy and services. That's actually awesome. That's my kind of sense of humor. So that's awesome. What are you guys driving? What's your type of vehicle? We got an Audi driver in England. I have anything that's cheap. I've been driving a lot of Volvos the last few years. That's all right. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. It threw me off when I saw that logo. That is an awesome play with the YouTube policy and services, because let me tell you, YouTube sometimes is not friendly to work with. In the past, I had an issue with something that I didn't think was handled well. So when I saw that, it drew red flags, India is in the house. First name, last name's got an Opel. A lot of Opels in Ireland I saw when we were there. In England too. We did London, and then we went to Ireland, and we took a tour of Ireland, and into North Ireland we took the tour to Belfast, which is part of England, by the way. I did not know that technically until I was there. So very interesting stuff. Germany is here. Guten Tag, wie geht's, or Guten Abend. I took 5 years of German. I can barely say 2 sentences, unfortunately. Okay, Styleterio's got a C63. Explain what that is. I'm not sure what a C63 is. I've never been to Germany. We'd like to go further into Europe someday. But when I was at Porsche, we would have people take European delivery, even with Volvos too. It could take European delivery. So if you bought a brand new, let's say 911, and the one that I can remember was a GT3, Porsche 911 GT3, and it was in the service drive, and asked the guy I was working with, why is that car in the service drive with those weird plates? It had European plates, but they were red and had weird insignias on them that were from the manufacturer. Basically, the customer bought that car, had it built. Once it was built, they flew him out to Germany. He took delivery of the car in Germany, essentially being able to drive it around. He drove it on the Autobahn, you could drive it. I don't know what the rules were for Porsche so much, but I know with Volvo, you could take delivery in Sweden and you could drive it around Europe. And when you're done, you take it back there. They fly you back home, then they package up your car and they ship it off to your selling dealership. I think that's pretty amazing. We'd see cars come in the dealership with, see Europe, European delivery symbol on there. And that was the actual car that they drove in Europe and then brought it back home. So I don't think you can beat that. Yes, bad sign. Definitely a bad sign. Hey, Jennifer Russell is here. Jennifer Dale's here too. Max said good evening to me. Good evening to you too, Max. What time is it in Germany now? It's got to be close to midnight, right? Or maybe in middle of the morning. I'm actually encouraged and surprised of the viewership that I get in Germany. I've posted some videos on Porsche and my Volvos. My son had a Porsche 924 that he got when he was 16 for his senior year of high school. We fixed it up, painted it, and he drove it for his senior year. And I posted some things that we ran across with the 924, which, by the way, was originally slated to be a Volkswagen car. But Porsche in Germany, they have a very long name with a lot of German words, but essentially Porsche is a manufacturing and design company. So not only they design and manufacture their own cars, but other corporations such as VW, which now owns Porsche, I believe, they would subcontract Porsche to do design and manufacturing work on their whatever they wanted. So they were looking for, Volkswagen was looking for a two-door sports car type that they wanted to replace. I thought it was a Scirocco. I could be getting the names wrong, but they were going to replace a car that they took off their lineup, and they asked Porsche to develop a car with out of the box parts. So they wanted, like, hey, we got ignition switches from this Volkswagen on this shelf and door locks on this shelf. They basically took all of the parts that they could so that it was more cost effective, and they designed a car from scratch for Volkswagen to run. VW changed leadership. The CEO was new, and then when he came on board, he said, "No, we're not doing this car," and they discontinued that. Porsche at the very same time was getting rid of the 914, and they needed a replacement for that. So they asked VW, "Hey, can we have the plans back for this car?" And they paid Volkswagen for the rights to produce the Porsche 924, which had a lot of VW parts in it. So there's a debate, a discussion whether or not the Porsche 924 is a VW or a Porsche. It's kind of a mix of both. It's shared. The engine was shared by the VW van. Not very powerful at all. So, but the unique part was when my son, we got the car running and painted and ready to go for his senior year. The unique part was him trying to find insurance because not too many insurance companies wanted to insure a 16-year-old with a Porsche, even though it's Probably was the slowest car in the driveway, but still fun, you know. And he didn't like it because his peers, would come up to him in the beginning of the day, and he didn't like the attention that he got from it, even though he paid very little money for it. Believe me, it was nothing special. But to drive a Porsche when you're young, he was driving it so he could practice his manual transmission. So, which he learned on if you watch my video on the Volvo PV544 that I saved west of Cleveland, dragged that home with my buddy Randy, and car hadn't run in 40 some years. Engine was seized, got it freed up, got it running and driving, and that's the car that my son learned to drive manual transmission on in the yard, basically. So Dale said he'd love to have an air-cooled 930. I don't know that I've ever seen a Porsche 930. We had some cool ones show up. There was a 356 that somebody owned. It was a good customer, and in the wintertime, they would store it for him in the showroom. And it actually looked nice when it snowed outside and they had all the lights lit up in the showroom. You'd see that beautiful Porsche on the showroom floor. And it was a customer's classic vehicle. It was really nice. Okay, I don't know Martin Winterkorn. Please tell me who that is. Is that a driver, or are you guys messing with me? Let's get in. Anyone have any questions? Oh, so on the topic of the Oldsmobile engine, now seeing how the valves were hung up, I believe that's exactly what's going on with the Rambler American, the 59 Rambler American. That's also an inline flathead 6. That was not stored inside like this engine was. So I just ordered the head gasket for it. I'm going to do a valve job on the Rambler American and see if we can get that going again, because I had to take a break from it. I was getting frustrated. I did clean it out. I pressure washed the inside of it. Try to get some of the mouse residue out of it. The interior is pretty rough. Floor is going to need a bunch of work. I had an idea. I reached out to a channel that I subscribe to, and they're probably about 60 miles away from here as a crow flies, but they're in Ontario, Canada, but on the other side of Toronto. So it's probably about a 3-hour ride, so it may not work. But I reached out to them, see if they wanted to do a collaboration, build an ultimate winter vehicle. And I was going to take that Rambler American that's rotted on the bottom, needs brakes, steering, suspension, engine, that kind of stuff. And I was going to, essentially buzz out the skateboard of a Subaru Impreza, because it has the same wheelbase, and then retro rod the Rambler American with an all-wheel drive Subaru vehicle that I could drive all year round. And I don't know, it never panned out, but that was something that I thought about instead of spending all that money on parts to get the Rambler going. But I may go in a different direction. It's kind of up in the air. All right, Dale. So the plan with the Olds engine is, I only have the Olds engine because the lady that I got it from, it was her dad's. Her dad passed away about 15 years ago. He was from Cleveland. She was originally from Cleveland, but lives up here in Western New York now. And they sold the car. It needed too much work. They had it forever. It needed an engine, and sold the car, but the guy never took the engine for whatever reason. So they had this engine that her dad had saved for this 1936 Oldsmobile for 55 years. So it hasn't run since 1969. Stored in their barn all those years, and now They sold the car. Dad passed. Didn't know what to do with it. Think she was going to possibly scrap it. And when I saw that, that's like a dog whistle to me. And I reached out to her and said, hey, I'd love to save that engine and if you want. And we worked out a deal and I came and got it. Got the engine. I posted some short videos on the channel. A good buddy of mine who I go out to breakfast with almost once a week, him and one of my other buddies, we meet out for breakfast. He calls me the next day. He's like, what are you doing with that Oldsmobile engine? I said, I don't know. I'm just trying to save it. I thought it would be neat to take it apart, get it running, create a will it run video with it. He's like, do you know that less than 100 feet from where I'm sitting, my uncle has a 1936 Oldsmobile that's needed an engine since 1962. I'm like, get out of here. I never even knew of this car or anything, but he had only gotten it back here like 2 years ago. It stopped running in 1962, stayed in New York until in the 80s. My buddy towed it out to his uncle who moved to New Jersey, and then 2 years ago lost storage of it or whatever and towed it back to Western New York. So if I get that Oldsmobile engine running, the plan is that that's the car it's going to go in, 36 Olds. Now, they're not the exact same engine, but I think we can get them to match. So that's the plan with that. Statler Brothers, New York City. Tell me about, I'm not sure what that is all about. Someone please send a Rambler fender. Yes. Somebody commented their grandfather has 3 Ramblers. The only problem is they're in northern Florida, but I'm trying to negotiate with him to get that to New York because I need a right front fender. I was going to try making one just for fun, just so it looked cool, but cooler. The problem is shipping. Shipping is like outrageous to ship to Western New York from, like Iowa or wherever. I found a yard that showed one, and it wasn't a whole lot of money, but the amount to ship it to Western New York was more than what I paid for the car. So that doesn't make sense, Yeah, Dale, the old story is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the ironic part about it, I had mentioned to my buddy Kevin that the reason for getting that Olds engine was similar to Flora. Flora's dad, this is another video I did on my channel with Triumph. Similar situation. Similar to what was going on with the lady who I got the Olds engine from. Flora's dad passed away 4 years ago. And part of the estate was this Triumph that was around in the family for years and years and years. Her dad had it. Take it out on special occasions, that kind of thing. Proms, graduation, that kind of stuff. But kind of fell into disrepair, sitting outside for years and didn't run, and any shop or whatever they took it to, the cost to get it going again, it wasn't something that was in the cards for them. So anyways, I ended up getting that car and got it running and driving. We polished it up and really was a really fun car. My wife actually loved that car. I didn't fit in it too well, so that was one of the things that was a downer for me is, I'm 6'5", so fitting in an English sports car really isn't in the cards for me. I wasn't barely able to fit in it. Ooh, straight 8, Dale. I had a 1950 Packard about, I don't know, a dozen years ago. That same thing. Somebody passed away. It was in their barn. It sat for years. It hadn't run since the 90s. I got it. It had a straight 8, 288, I believe, was was the displacement. It was the smaller of the Packard inline eights, but I got it running, and that thing sounded so cool. It sounded like a airplane running. I don't know, a straight eight engine. If you have never heard one run, it's a unique sound. It's really kind of cool. Yeah, straight eight and a street hot rod would be cool. So yeah, it's a very, the tone that the straight eight engine makes is kind of I don't know, it's nothing that I've ever heard before I got that one running. The other unique quality to that car, the ignition switch. So you had an ignition switch, you turn the ignition on. To start it, you had to hold it wide open throttle. There was a starter switch at wide open throttle. And I think the Rambler is set up the same way, although the starter switch and all that stuff is, you know, rotted off, blown out of there. I think that's how that one started too. Probably I will, you know, put a start button or something in that car, because not that the technology was, you know, bad at the time. I don't know that I like, if you go to, I don't know what happens. I'd assume that if you gun the throttle, you know, trying to pass somebody, that the starter engages. I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone know when your starter switch is on the throttle pedal, what happens at wide open throttle if you're driving? That would be a question that I would love to know the answer to. So I'm trying to follow along in chat. Once again, I'm getting familiar with the systems. I do want to utilize a green screen because I think there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to incorporate next week in a live stream, such as being able to post pictures, you know, show video threads. The software that I got loaded on my computer is supposedly able to do that, so it'll keep it a little bit more entertaining. But at this time, the software, I couldn't get it to operate so that it was good. So on the subject of the Oldsmobile engine, I said before, and you guys probably heard it, those of you who were there, but taking out the valve springs, I'm doing it whatever valves are down. I'm not doing it in any particular order. It's different from like an overhead valve engine where you take the heads off and all of the valves are, you know, closed. You just pull all the springs off, take all the valves out, cut all the valve seats, cut all the valves. Doing it different, a little more time consuming with this. I'm taking all the valves that are closed out in this rotation. So I got it in a rotation where I got a bunch of valves that I can take out, taking those valves, you know, surfacing the valves, cutting the valve seat, and then reinstalling them on that cylinder. Once I get all the valves that I can do, I got half of them done. Put them all back together, and then I will rotate the engine so that the other valves are closed, and then take those out, cut the valves, cut the valve seats, and then put it back in. How you doing, Maddox? Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for coming on. Where are you from? Post your location. So I don't know, Dale, if the starter on the Olds. So the starter on the Olds, I don't have the starter. And the reason being is on a 37 Olds and prior, they had, hi Michelle, they had the transmission held the flywheel, and so the transmission bell housing was kind of separate, held the flywheel and the clutch and everything, and the starter bolted to the transmission housing. It was not like modern engines where the starter bolts up to the engine and the flywheel is bolted on the back of the engine. The flywheel and everything and the starter were part of the transmission, which is not, I've never seen it on anything else before. I've never worked on anything like it that I can remember. But definitely, definitely different from what I'm used to. So we had a few more people join the chat. Maddox, where are you from? So I don't know how it was last week because I couldn't see the chat. So I did set up a different system so I can read the chat as we're talking. And I'm still trying to find a good rhythm for following the chat. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see the engine run. There's still some work to do, and definitely going to post that once we get to that point. I got half the valves done. I did run into a problem with the valve keeper that I dropped in the engine. So now it looks like we're going to be taking the oil pan off to get it back out. Macy or Ronaldo? I'm not sure what that means, but Macy is a cat that we follow every week. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but that's where we're at. Who's the greatest of all time? So and I appreciate everyone coming on and hanging out with us. Few people from England, few people from Germany. So I know it's got to be pretty late in Germany right now. So glad you guys got a chance to make it. Most you win a ball and you are. So I ordered a new head gasket for the Rambler. And once I get this Oldsmobile engine to a point where I think it's going to run or I can test it to run, the next will be taking the cylinder head back off of the Rambler, and I'm going to go through the valves on that because I'm pretty confident now seeing what an engine that's been in storage for 55 years that hasn't really been exposed to the elements does to the valve train versus that Rambler sat outside in Western New York for 40 years. I don't know, maybe not outside the whole time, but definitely the last few years. So I think that based on what I saw, I didn't really look hard at the valves. We're just trying to get it to run. That those valves need to come out, and I have to go through that engine to make that one run. I think it'll run. The cylinders weren't horrible. They weren't great, but they weren't horrible. I think the valve seats and the valves are probably way worse than the Oldsmobile engine that I'm doing right now. So, Dale, the rest of the driveline for the Rambler, the transmission is an unknown. It's a Borg-Warner automatic transmission. I've never dealt with before or seen before. I didn't even know they made them. I think Borg-Warner, it's one of the companies like that. And you can still get overhaul kits pretty darn cheap on eBay for them. So I don't know if the rest of the driveline is good. The rear axle, I think, you'd have to run it out of oil and try driving it for a long time to hurt a rear axle. So I'm hoping there's enough there to make it run. Yeah, the flatheads are slow revving and don't make a whole lot, not a lot of horsepower, but decent amount of torque. Okay, so movie. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. You're asking, what do I think about TSI engines from Volkswagen? I'm not a huge fan of Volkswagen and Volkswagen engines, and I don't mean to be, put anyone off. It just hasn't really been my thing. So I don't know. I think with direct injected engines on the VWs, the biggest thing with them was carbon on the valves, carbon on the intakes, carbon building up in general, because you didn't have fresh fuel getting sprayed on the intake valves all the time, and it would get the EGR would cause carbon to build up on the intake valves, and at a certain point it would hang the valves open and do all kinds of things that got very expensive to fix. So I never really got into the VW scene. I know a lot of people are big fans of VW. I'm indifferent to VW. My particular flavor of engineering is not really coincide with Volkswagen. That's true. That's most direct injected engines. They have the carbon problem. Hyundai did something where I don't know if it's better or worse, but instead of having 4 direct injected injectors that go right into cylinder, because they were having problems with the carbon, they put 4 regular fuel injectors on the intake to help keep the valves clean. So it was like a redundant system. I don't know if that's it. Obviously, more longevity to the engine when you have the fresh fuel cleaning the intake valves, but now you have double the amount of injectors. So is that double the amount of problems? I don't know. Injectors don't go bad all that often, but something. There's just anytime you add, you create more problems, in my opinion. Yeah, Dale, I got to get the engine going first, and I'll keep my fingers crossed with it. I did flat toe at home. I'm talking about the Rambler, 59 Rambler. I did not even know that it was automatic. I thought it was a 3 on the tree until I got it home, and then I saw when I went to move it into a gear, because I thought it was 3 on the tree, and he's like, oh no, it's in neutral. When I got it home, I'm like, I got it unloaded, went to put it in a gear, and I'm like, wait a second, it's got the Prindle. It's got an automatic in it. I don't know how common automatics were in 59 Ramblers, Americans, because Rambler American was the cheapest car you could buy as far as a list price of a vehicle in 1959 in the United States. The Rambler American was the cheapest car list price. This one has logos that it's a super. I don't know what the super designation was, but probably like any trim level, went like 0 to 60 in like 4 years. It was like 16 seconds or whatever. They were not very fast. They were known to be economical in terms of fuel. Fuel mileage was a thing even back then. So, see, checking out. There are cleaners that you can use, but yeah, it does hurt the catalytic converter, because that carbon's got to go somewhere, and the next stop is the catalytic converter, and when you start putting a lot of carbon into the catalytic converter honeycomb, then that builds heat, which, kills the catalyst. You're right. Yeah, bring money if you're going to drive GDIs, no doubt. I was hoping to put, there was somebody I was in traffic with yesterday had a Golf, a Volkswagen Golf GTI, and I wanted to see what the Volvo would do against it. I got that S60. That thing flies, actually. The Volvo S60 with the 2.5 inline 5-cylinder, that thing really rips. That was the parts car for another car that I had, and then he didn't sell any other parts off it, and he sent me a message on Marketplace, hey, do you want to buy the rest of this car? And that's what I did. Dale had, his grandfather had a Rambler American. See, we were talking about valve seals in this. I do not see valve seals. So I didn't take the springs all the way out on the Oldsmobile engine, but I got the valves out and I moved the valve spring in where it goes over the lifter and kind of looked up in there as best I could. I didn't see valve seals per se on that engine. I tried finding, did they run valve seals in 1937 on an Oldsmobile? Is that a thing? Or like small block Chevys for the longest time just ran O-rings. You had a valve stem and an O-ring that went on the valve stem and then the spring went over the top. How that acted as I don't know if the O-rings ended up getting stuck to the valve guide, and that's how it stopped the oil from getting in the valve guide, or as much. I don't know, but I'm putting O-rings on the Oldsmobile just to have something there, but I don't even know. Yeah, the Passat, very expensive to repair, especially the transmission. I think that had a DSG, and we had, man, when I was at a VW dealer, I remember one that we just could not get the parts for to fix it, to get it out of there. Hello, Assassin. All right, Swedish Gamer 92, Adolf. Swedish Gamer, do you have a Swedish vehicle? We like the Volvos. We got someone new there, 335D Lane. Hello. Thank you, everyone, for coming in, especially the people from Europe that are here, where it's very late there, so I appreciate that. Yeah, they did add the umbrella seals, David. My father had a van, 1988. He had a conversion van he bought brand new, had a 305 in it. And I remember when GM went from the O-rings to the Ford style. Well, I considered it Ford style because I remember Fords having the umbrella seals on it. They had a service bulletin for oil smoke when starting after it sat for a while. And my dad, because they took that and trips around the country, was nervous about it, wanted a new engine instead of the umbrella seals. That probably would have fixed the problem. And at any rate, GM started using the umbrella seals ever since that point that I can remember. Swedish Gamer, are you in Sweden? I didn't see if you posted where you're typing from. Dale's ready for a couple beers. Huh. Maybe Assassin didn't respond. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately, so I need the help of some people to be able to communicate well. I wish that YouTube did a live translation. So last 10 minutes here. So I want to hopefully anyone in any of the hurricane affected areas, that was some crazy stuff this last week. You're in Kosovo is Serbia. Okay. Are you in Serbia? Yes, definitely on Sundays, Dale. We're normally part of a live chat that streams out of Russia on Sundays, and it's they did have, if you turn on closed captioning and turn on English, closed captioning, even on live streams, if they have that feature turned on, like if I turn on closed captioning for the live stream, which I didn't see a setting for that. I have it turned on my channel, I thought, so somebody in watching in another country or different language could, see live translation in closed captioning. You could get that in live stream too. So if you spoke in French or German or Russian or whatever, it comes up in your native language, what they're saying. It's pretty close because we have interpreters for the live stream that we watch, and they will tell us what the person is saying in real time. And then I had that when they had the ability to turn on closed captioning, that come up and it was close. It wasn't exact, but at least I felt like the live person translating had a better grasp on what they were trying to say. But yeah, cheers to everyone in all the other countries. Swedish Gamer says, I hope that Florida people see where the water reach so they don't build their map. Yeah. There's a lot of places that I'm surprised that they allow them to build when you have, especially a low land next to the ocean. I know people pay a lot of money for oceanfront property, but sometimes you wonder, was that a great idea to build there? So upcoming this week, I want to finish getting the valves done on the Oldsmobile engine. Maybe by next week, we can at least have an idea, hopefully put the head back on and check compression again, hoping to have all 6 cylinders hitting with compression. And then from that point, we'll add fuel and spark and see if it runs. That's the plan with the Olds engine on the stand in the garage. Once I can prove that the engine runs, then my buddy Kevin's going to make the call to his uncle and ask him about getting that car on the road again after, 62 years. I think that would be pretty cool. And his uncle is up there in age, so it would be something that worthwhile, I think, to have him see that car run again or driving it again. I don't know. Anything that you guys want to cover next week in terms of topics, should everyone, put down their favorite car? We want to talk classic cars. We want to talk hot rods. Or we want to talk, general repair. Right now, the automotive world is kind of in a state of disarray, I would say. I think everyone was riding a high for the last few years with the whole COVID thing and the supply and demand thing that You know, they could ask anything they wanted for the used cars. The used car market was way out of touch with reality. And now that's kind of crashing down. People are, the manufacturers are really hurting. You want to talk about, regular cars? We want to talk about classic cars. What do you guys have in mind? Okay, yeah, we can do an overview on all the areas. David, I can tell you, I'll give you a brief overview, but I'll get into details later. The Rambler, obviously the engine doesn't run and it doesn't have compression except for 2 cylinders or enough. It has compression in the other cylinders similar to the olds, but not enough to make fire. And would it come around? Possibly, but I just think for the point of getting it to run, take that head off. The flathead engine is very simple to get a head off. I had the one off the Olds engine on the stand in about 10 minutes, and most of that was looking for tools and finding places to put things so that they won't get trampled on. And once they took the head off, everything's right there in front of you. So the Rambler engine obviously needs some major disassembly and inspection on the valve train side. And I got a new head gasket ordered because I reused the head gasket that I took off of it, and that was not all metal. I did have somebody comment today that they worked at GM head gasket manufacturer and they were composite head gaskets, but I don't see any composite head gasket material in the head gasket I took off of this inline 6 Oldsmobile engine. The this looks like it's copper or an alloy. I would think it's probably copper when they built the engine, just like that old Volvo PV544 I had. So the old rule was 25 years old and older cars were considered a classic, which, I don't know if they're going to change that theory, but 25 years old and older were a classic. 50 years old and older were considered an antique. But now cars are lasting longer, so 20, if you have a 1999 vehicle, you have a classic car. It's kind of, for me, that the math just doesn't work, but that's what they consider that. Oh, I don't know if you can anneal the copper gasket on the Volvo flathead, or on the Volvo engine, which was not a flathead, but it had clearly it was a copper head gasket. I cleaned it, and I spray it with head gasket spray or whatever to get it to seal again. Yes, Jennifer, you do technically have a classic. You got it. Actually, I don't know where you got that from, but it's really, Jennifer's got a really nice example of, I want to say, what year was that, Jennifer? The S10, it was, yeah, 80. That's very, very clean. And yes, it would be considered a classic. Curtis says, is 83 Mitsubishi Starion Turbo is a classic. Yeah, 83. You're 83. You're pushing almost pushing an antique at this point. 69 Chevelle would be. I'm just saying how they used to word it. At 25 years and older was a classic. 50 years and older was an antique. So, Yeah, 69 Chevelle would definitely be, and that would be over 50 years old. Check me on the facts, because I'm going off of memory, and my memory isn't as good as it used to be, but I'm pretty sure that those were the numbers that I recall. Yeah, definitely could probably use a new term for that. So I did math. I don't know if you guys caught this, but so 1993, this is the year. So if today I found a 1993 vehicle, it doesn't matter what it is. We can use, let's just say, Jennifer will use your vehicle. Let's say I find a 1993 S10 vehicle truck today, and I took the engine out of it in 2024, right? That's 31 years, 32 years, whatever, round figures. Take that out, and then I take that engine and I park it in the garage or in a barn for 55 years, and then took it back out of the barn in the year 2079, and then try to get it running again. Essentially, that's what we're doing with the Oldsmobile engine. That's 55 years, so it's sat since 1969. So in the case of your Chevelle, and I'm trying to get it running after it sat for 55 years, and it's a 1937. So the math on it is, if I took an engine from 1993 and mothballed it for 55 years, it would be the year 2079. I'm sure things would be a lot different then anyways, but thank you, Incognito. Yeah, my t-shirt, my wife got me this. I like silly t-shirts. That's my thing. Okay, thoughts on the BYD and the Chinese Tesla. So, a fellow YouTuber that I communicate on only on YouTube, we don't communicate like any other way, but he has a BYD. He's in Australia. He seems to like it. But I don't know how it compares. I've heard mixed talk of their quality with BYDs. We don't have them here in the United States, as far as I know, and I don't know where you're at, Harold, but I have not seen any BYDs in the United States. Anyone just joining us that's not in the United States, please, or even if you're in the United States, type in the chat where you're from, where you're watching from. I find that stuff amazing. YouTube and other platforms just makes the world smaller, So if everything went as planned, tomorrow I'm going to work on the Oldsmobile engine some more. I got to take the oil pan down, most likely. There's probably a reason for it. So I dropped the other valve keeper in there, and obviously I don't want a valve keeper floating around in the engine, because you don't want that getting sucked up by the oil pump. That'll cause for a bad day. New Zealand. Curtis, you're in New Zealand? And Alan's in Kenya? Are you guys serious? So we have family that's in New Zealand. So my wife's side of the family, her aunt and her cousins live in New Zealand. So welcome to the stream. Thank you. And Kenya, Alan. I'm not familiar with a lot of Africa, but I would love to visit there someday. Isn't it? Yeah, it is cool. Think about how many continents. This small live stream, we got 63 viewers right now. 6,487 views in total. That's crazy. So that's kind of it's a flexible like a speedo cable. Works great. Yeah, Dale, I don't have a flexible magnet, but that's kind of what I need. I have an expandable tiny magnet that's how I fished the one out with, but I didn't get so lucky with the second one, and I didn't actually see it drop in the hole. I heard it hit when it slid out of my hand from the grease, but I did not. It almost sounded like it hit the floor, and I don't know. My eyes aren't that great, but I can't find the thing. Oh yeah, Jennifer, thank you. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button. That does help us somehow. Appreciate that. Thanks, David. I appreciate you guys being here. So if you have anything else that you'd like to cover next week, I'd like to do a weekly thing. I hope to have some more tech up and running so we can do some videos and whatnot. So we can talk about things. The only thing I have for show and tell, Dale, this hits close to home for you, kind of. It's kind of in between us. I did want to share this. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that all right? So the story with this gas globe, well, the glass lenses, the plastic part that holds it together is just something they got after the fact. But my dad worked for the electric company. There was a gas station in our hometown that they were tearing down in the 70s, and they had to shut the electric off to the building. And my dad was talking with the contractor there. He's like, yeah, we got to get all that. Yes, Mitch. Got to get all this stuff out of here, blah, blah, blah. And my dad said, what are you doing with all those glass globes? And they're like, we're gonna, it's just junk. So my dad ended up getting these glass globes, right, from the gas station. Now, I cannot find much information on all Penn gas, but from the limited information that I could find, this gas globe from the 1940s. Bradford, PA was like one of the original areas for gasoline, and they had light crude oil, whatever. It was, or sweet, I don't know, light sweet. There's different grades of oil that comes out of the ground, and it was like a desirable area for that. Gas and Oil Museum is the only other place in Bradford that I've seen that logo. I found somewhere online that this logo and this company was from the 1940s. And they had, I don't know what their distribution network is, but I think that's the ARG, I think, is who owns a refinery in Bradford, Pennsylvania, which I think that was this All Penn Gas was like the parent company, or that's where it came from before, it got sold and bought or whatever. Yeah, sweet crude. Sour crude, I've never heard of. Curtis, I got some beautiful pictures from New Zealand that my wife took that are hanging on our hanging in our dining room wall. She told I got to see the pictures, and she told me a lot of good stories about the twisty, turny roads that they were driving on with her cousins and everything. United Refining, I've not heard of, Dale, but Dale, how far are you from the Bradford area in terms of mileage? Well, Bradford from here is probably an hour and a half ride. They got a lot of cool stuff in Bradford. Zippo lighters made there. Quickfill is an ARG company. Yeah, we got. So yeah, it's an hour and a half from you, Dale. So Bradford's like halfway, the halfway point between you and I, essentially. All right. Curtis, you're asking Dale where he is in Northwest Sullivan County. I don't think I've ever been to Sullivan County. Would I have? Does 81 run through Sullivan County, Dale? Northwest would be. No, 81 wouldn't run through that. Dale, are you closer to oh, I'm sorry. Curtis. Pictures my wife took in New Zealand. It's not Christchurch. It's not that. It's the other island. Okay, 81's east of you, Dale. Yeah, so I'm assuming you're like west of Erie? I'm not familiar. I think I've been through Williamsport, but I can't picture it on a map. I'm sorry. What part of New Zealand are you in, Curtis? Oh, sorry for. I notice every time I look at the camera, the reflection off of my computer monitor is off my glasses, and unfortunately, I would normally do this without my glasses on, but then I can't read. I can't see. Sucks getting old. You know what I mean? Okay. East of Bradford. Okay. But east of Bradford, you're coming up on 81, right? It can't be too far. I'm in Western New York, uh, essentially Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls, Almond. Eagles Meet Auto Museum. Okay. I have not heard of Eagles Meet Auto Museum. I've been to Carlisle once when I was a teenager, but that's more like down 219 to 15. But that's the other. I think that's the other side of the state from you. And the last time we went to Pennsylvania, we're on our way to Gettysburg. We stopped off at the Pioneer coal mine, which is an abandoned coal mine. That was cool. And then we went next town over was Centralia, Pennsylvania, where a coal mine fire has been burning since 1960 or 62. And the town's abandoned and everything. It was kind of cool. Oh, Auckland. Yes, that's where my wife's family is from. I don't know if in Auckland, where specifically, but that's where my wife's family is from. Auckland, New Zealand. Yeah, we were going into fall now, Dale. My heater just turned. I had to turn it on in the garage yesterday. It was cold, but then this morning it was warm again, and woke up with a migraine. Now, Curtis, you mentioned you were going on a Harley. I used to have Harleys. When the 100th anniversary for Harley Davidson occurred in 2003, I believe it was, right? Because it was 1903 to 2003. They had a big like tour from four corners of the United States, and they all went to Wisconsin. One of the legs came through Buffalo, New York, which is not far from me, and we were there for that. It was a 3-day weekend. There were guys from New Zealand that came through Buffalo, New York. I want to say they started in Boston or Washington, D.C., whatever it was. Those guys were from New Zealand. They had their bikes shipped over, and they rode that ride all the way, basically took a tour of the northeast part of the United States into the Midwest, and it had to be pretty awesome. It was cool to see. There was people from all around the world there. It was wild. Very wild. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up for this live stream. You can always email me at funwithcarsj@gmail.com. No spaces, no dots, no nothing. If you guys have any ideas or anything you'd like to talk about, I'd love ideas. And I would love your input, and whatever you think, you got constructive criticism to make the stream better, hit me up. Tell me what you think. Oh, Shopcat Industries is just coming in. Yeah, I was just wrapping it up. I apologize. I could keep going, but I don't want to. I don't want to bore anyone. Basically, Shopcat, I was going over Club Cadet parts, Kohler. So a good buddy of mine, Shopcat, has a lot of small engine stuff. If there's anything specific that you are looking for, you can hit me up an email too. It's FunWithCarsJ. So FUN, with cars, JAY at gmail.com. You guys can hit me up on email, and I don't look at that email too often, but if you got any questions or if you got any ideas, Shopcat's supposed to be working. That's all right. You got to have a break, right? Curtis, you can always move. Although from what my wife tells me and the pictures I saw where you're at, that's pretty beautiful, so I don't know. All right, so next week, hopefully my technology will be a little bit better. I'll get my systems up and running. There was 2 different ways I wanted to try it. So if you see a live stream pop up in the middle of the week, it's just going to be me testing the technology that I'm trying to add. So I'm making it a little bit nicer for everyone. And once again, if you got any topics or things, there's some stuff like Jennifer Russell is here. I don't know if she's still here. She has some cool pictures that she shared with me. I'd love to maybe put those up, but I'd like to be able to say, hey, let's talk about X, Y, and Z, or let's say you want to talk about your '69 Chevelle or whatever. If I had a picture of it and I could display it, and then we could talk about it while we're doing a live stream, that I think that would be cool. I know the technology's there. I thought I was capable of it, but there's something I'm missing in the setup that I couldn't get my green screen to work. So let's just say we were talking about Jennifer Russell's vehicle and she gave me permission to display it. I could say, hey, let's talk about this. And I could, click a button, and then behind me, you would see me, we would talk, but you would see whatever it was I was talking about. And I could move myself around with the green screen and talk about what was behind me, essentially in the shot that you're seeing. That's what I'm trying to get up and running. Oh, that'd be cool, Dale. Appreciate that. All right, so anyways, that's the homework for me for this week, is to get the live stream a little bit more spit shine and polished. If you guys have any ideas, please, shoot me an email. And I appreciate joining me again this week. Had fun. Hopefully it was interesting enough, and hopefully next week is even better. Our second live stream, I think it was a success. So thanks for joining. See you guys next week. Have a good week. If I don't see you, I'll probably see some of you guys tomorrow. All right? And then if I know how to get out of this, I'll end the live stream. Have a good week.